Welcome back to Black Swan Outdoors. Today I'm going to walk you through how to build a mast in the field. So oftentimes we want to hang a jungle antenna, like the antenna that's hanging up right here, and you might not be able to find a branch to hang that antenna or a tall point to do that. And in that situation, knowing how to build a mast could be something that could be handy to have in the field. So it's very simple and it costs very little, free, and it takes just a little bit of time. The faster and the better you know your knots and lashing, the faster it's going to be to construct this. Okay, so let's talk about how to do that. So let's start from the base. The mast itself is just two spars or long poles. One is about maybe 15-20 feet. The second one is about maybe 8 feet or so. It's willow is what I'm using, so it's a little bendy, a little more pliable than I would like, so it is bending a little bit. And I didn't build this very tall, specifically so that you could see the components in the video. So ideally, I'd also like this to be a little bit more stout and a little taller if I could. At the top, you'll see that I put a vertical or a horizontal bar coming across, and then supported that with another stick. And so essentially that horizontal is lashed on with a square lashing, and then I use the diagonal lashing, just like what we use for the spreaders, for the jungle antenna, to attach that support on. So the mast is the lashing that we used for the two poles or spars is just a pole lashing, which is basically just a clove hitch. Wrap that rope or tightly around both poles and then end with a clove hitch. Very, very simple. And then the next thing you'll see coming down here is the guy lines. The way I like to do this is I like to put a girth hitch or a prusik hitch on the pole with a shorter line and then tie the guy lines to that line. So those are attached by a square knot. And then coming down here, actually let's go this way. The line then comes down to an anchor. Now if you're using a small mast, you probably won't need to have an anchor point if it's just a very lightweight or short mast. The base is going to, which I'll show you in a second, is probably going to be enough to support that line, just like that painter's pole video that I showed you, that it doesn't require a whole lot for guying out. So the guy line here, the tension is on here by a 2 half hitches, and that's just a knot that slides and also holds tension, so you can adjust your tension on there. On the other side here, I have a different anchor point. So if you're going to be using a larger mast, you're probably going to want a little stronger of an anchor point. And this is called a 1-1 anchor. Essentially, it's just like a regular stake, except for I'm going to have 2 stakes, and then I can take this apart so you can see. You basically can take twine, cordage, whatever. I just use some extra rope, and you just wrap that around. You take a windlass and just tighten that up, just like a tourniquet. I just stick it in the ground to hold it steady. And that way you have a really much stronger anchor point. So if you've got a high wind, storms, things like that you might be concerned with, this is a pretty good anchor. You can beef this up by doing what's called a 3-2-1 anchor, which is essentially 3 stakes put together. So if you could imagine 3 stakes inside this loop here, and then 2 stakes would be the next one. So instead of 1 stake here, it would be 2 stakes side by side, and then a single stake on this side. And then you put your rope in between, and you have 2 windlasses on both sides, and that's going to give you even more strength. So that's just another anchor point. So there's other anchors we can talk about. If you're interested in this kind of thing, we can certainly do more videos on this topic. Okay, so the base then, getting to the base here, is 2 stout anchors. And the base, as you can see, is not dug into the ground. And so if I wanted to dig this mast into the ground, I certainly could, but that's going to require a shovel more time and a longer mast. It's a lot simpler, a lot easier and faster just to do two large stakes on either side of the mast and then lash it together with a pole lashing. Now ideally I would like to have two pole lashings, one here and then one at the base. That way when I'm setting it up, the bottom doesn't come out, especially if it's quite heavy, and then bring the whole mast down, because it'll just pivot right on the single single lashing. But for demonstration purposes and for such a lightweight, I just threw one on, also because I'm lazy. So essentially, that is all you need to do to build this. As far as supplies, you're going to want, of course, your radio, an antenna. You'll want some rope and cordage. It really doesn't matter too much what you're using. You just want something that's not going to stretch a whole lot. An axe, and then your PPE, a pair of gloves, and a eye protection. And then for making the stakes, just a field knife. So really, you can do most of this or all of this with just an axe. In reality, and you can build these antennas masts pretty quick. So this was just a field mast. If you got any questions or comments, put them down below. Remember to like and subscribe, and if you like this content, we have this whole series on gorilla antennas, so check them out if you like it.